Project 613, day 176. Today we continue learning about the positive mitzvah of the service in the temple on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. As we mentioned yesterday, that on Yom Kippur, the entire service in the temple was done by the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, and in addition to the daily sacrifices and offering the regular incense and lighting the menorah, but there is an extra service which includes bringing more sacrifices and actually bringing incense into the Holy of Holies, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holiest spot in the world where no one was allowed to enter, and only on that one day a year the Kohen Gadol would go in there and offer the incense, and he would sprinkle blood from some of the sacrifices, and he would mention a prayer, and this was highly symbolic, or in fact he was the representative of all the Jewish people to go into the inner sanctuary one-on-one with God, and through this to achieve atonement for the Jewish people. Now, the Yom Kippur service has a lot of components to it. There's the incense that was offered in the Holy of Holies. There are the extra sacrifices that are brought. Those sacrifices, the blood of those sacrifices have to be sprinkled in a very specific way. There is certain confessions that the Kohen Gadol would say on behalf of, for himself, for all of the Kohanim, for the priests, and for all of the Jewish people. And one might argue and say that really these should be all separate mitzvot. Why are they considered one mitzvah? And the reason is, the Talmud explains, because the service of Yom Kippur must be done in a very specific order. And if the Kohen Gadol does it in a different order than prescribed in the Torah, then the entire service is invalidated. So that teaches us that the service is like one unit. This is called the Yom Kippur service. It begins in the morning and concludes in the afternoon, and it must be done in a very specific way. If one detail is missing, the entire mitzvah is not there. Another thing about Yom Kippur, you have to realize that even though it was a very serious time, very solemn time in the temple, however, it was a most joyous time as well. In fact, our sages tell us that the greatest, most joyous holiday for the Jewish people, one of them was Yom Kippur. The reason is because it's a day of atonement, a day of closeness with God, a day of intimacy with God. It's like our wedding with God, and a wedding is very joyous. Even though we do not eat, however, the process of Yom Kippur is meant to bring a tremendous amount of joy to all of us, even today. The next mitzvah we learn today is a positive commandment that deals with a scenario when a Jew misappropriates holy objects or holy food. As we've learned over the past few weeks, there are many different types of things that could become holy in association with the Holy Temple or with the Kohanim. For example, every Jew who has produce is obligated to separate 2% of that produce and give it to the Kohen, and this is called Truma, and this food is holy. If a Jew who is not a Kohen eats Truma, so he has misappropriated the Truma. Now, how does one rectify the situation? The positive commandment for today is that he must pay back the amount that he misappropriated together with an extra fifth. Let me explain. If a Jew, by mistake, and this is key here, if by mistake a Jew ate $100 worth of Truma, which is the food that is holy and meant to be given to the Kohen and eaten only by the Kohen, this Jew must repay to the Kohanim $100 plus 25%, so plus $25, and at the end of the day, when he pays $125, that extra amount that he paid turns out to be 1/5 of the total that he had to pay of the restitution. So me'ila is the Hebrew word for misappropriation of holy objects. The way to fix that up is by paying it back and adding a choimish, adding a fifth. But the way you calculate the fifth is not a fifth of the original amount. It should be a fifth of the total amount. So if it was $100, divide that up into 4, add a quarter, and the total amount will give you the total amount that one needs to pay. It will turn out that the addition is only a fifth of that total amount. Thank you all for watching. More tomorrow.